A somewhat partly sensible human being lets himself be guided just so far by religious, sectarian, philosophical or other teachings of worldview philosophies that he only uses and extracts that which is valuable and related to reality as well as that which is possible to understand, while the already confused and prejudiced is already partially in bondage and permeates the actual reality with ununderstandable, unrealistic and purely religious related beliefs. While it is still possible to talk and discuss everything in a somewhat sensible and reasonable manner with a still halfway reasonable follower, i.e., believer of the above-mentioned teachings, it is not possible any more with a person in bondage to a teaching and religious belief. And this means in regard to the latter that two human beings cannot find common ground any more in friendship, love, respect and honesty any more and also cannot understand each other, as two different views and opinions are given. That means, such human beings do not shake hands, do not greet each other and do not help each other anymore, do not know each other and can only be enemies and even then, if they would be the last two people on earth. In the end this leads inevitably to the preference to die rather than to accept an explanation or help from the other. To shoot, to hang, to drown, to slay, to blow up, to roast in the fire or to boil in hot oil, etc., is the device. All this especially then when human beings fanatically become enslaved to foreign or native teachings and offend them to the last drop of blood without any consideration for their own or any other life, as fanaticism not only destroys the last bit of reason, if any was there, but also the respect for any life. Namely, fanaticism is far more than enthusiasm, as this concept in Latin defines it as truly founded in an uncontrollable blind and passionate eagerness and an inconsiderate intoxication of delusion that knows no limits and with boiling blood and hatred, without hesitation and recklessness in the worst case stops at nothing. Fanaticism does not stop at one human being because through false teachings of religious, sectarian or philosophical or other teachings related to worldview philosophies it spreads out fast like an epidemic and is able to hit each unstable human being adhering to any false teaching. Once a human being is infected with a false doctrine, the step to fanaticism is not far anymore because only too eagerly the believer clings to a belief and scorns at reality whereby it is only a question of time that he falls into fanaticism. Once a human being has been seized by it, he works on his fellow men to make them dependent, and in this way fanaticism is transmitted to others in a short time. In this way a fanatic human being not only infects many more fanatics, he downright breeds them. So more and more fanaticism flares up and becomes a blazing fire that ignites human beings and destroys all reason and all humanness as well as all clear thinking and feeling, choking all tolerance in its roots. Fanaticism like a blazing sword of death is swung by illusion, fervor and hate and destroys intellect as well as reason. Led by human beings and swung, it rushes there where something opposes fanaticism and murders, kills and destroys whatever falls into its flaming edge. This sword of death led by fanaticism cannot order itself to stop and is not able to change its direction and momentum, if not the fanatic holding it, is governed by reason and lets reason triumph. Unfortunately, on earth, there are many people who are not only caught in a certain belief, but also in an enslaving fanaticism. In blind rage and hatred, in uncontrolled and thoughtless intoxicated illusion they work themselves up to a bloodthirsty frenzy and fight recklessly and insensibly for their own or indoctrinated religious, sectarian, philosophical or other worldview philosophical ideas or ideals with the only thought to destroy all that which is in contradiction to their own ideas or their insane teachings which they have dedicated themselves to with body and soul. These people only see and know their own illusion and therefore do not respect their own life or the life of their fellow men. that they simply wipe out by following their course of insanity to which they come through their own false ideas, or by accepting a humanly degrading insane teaching of the religious, sectarian, philosophical, or political kind, and thoughtlessly drift along this insane course. When they attack, their terror spares nothing, and only pain, suffering, blood, death, sadness and destruction are found on all roads and lanes and in all meadows, fields, churches, temples, mosques and synagogues. Everywhere you go you only meet fanaticism and terror, and where these rule, you do not find any joy, love, harmony, happiness, freedom and peace and anything alive anymore. Whoever has seen war and ever has ended up in one or been caught up in one, or has ever met the murderous criminals and has had to fight for his life, and has met fanatics and experienced their terror in one form or other, knows how possessed, brutal, mean, degenerated, reckless, bloodthirsty, sick and fiendish man can really be when he loses his reason and degenerates into thoughtless and uncontrolled killing, murder, destruction and annihilation. Even the regular soldier degenerates into a beast when he has tasted blood and he cannot control his thoughts, feelings, ideas and emotions. Whoever has any idea in reality of all of this, not only from television, radio, or newspaper, gives way to rage and anger but also to pain and sadness, and whoever has experienced all this in reality mourns over all the people who have lost their lives, and he mourns over the world that has to carry all of the misery and hardship, and in consequence of destruction and devastation perishes himself. He who has experienced all this is saddened that all the peoples of the earth cannot live in peace, love, freedom and harmony with each other, and are not willing to solve their problems with logic, reason, and thought, but always only with wicked, naked violence. Human being of the earth, listen, there is only one way into the future, and only one way to a free, harmonious and peaceful life, and that is the way of reason and love. Man has to look at himself and delve within himself to find reason, truth, and the love for himself and for his neighbor, fellow man, and for life. Thus he has to look within himself and start to understand that everything is subject to a continuous becoming and passing away, and that nothing lasts forever but is perishable, and everything that crawls and flies, everything that walks and swims, and everything that is built, including man himself. Nothing material lasts forever, and that has to be reckoned with. Therefore it has to be understood that life has to be used to strive for the higher and also to reach this goal, but not to attain profit, riches, power and control, and not to degenerate to fanaticism and to bring war, revolution and terror and 1,000 deaths to the world and the human being. The human being has to learn to create peace and freedom and take the rudder out of the hands of the tyrants, despots, fanatics, anarchists and terrorists, and break their bloody might, but this should not take place with wars or other tyranny and terror, fanaticism and despotism. Should this happen, however, then countless innocent people will be murdered, buildings, palaces and whole cities will be demolished, while whole irreplaceable countrysides, forests, lakes, rivers and streams, and even the untouched rest of the destroyed earth will be erased and vaporized in seconds through nuclear bombs and rockets.